Hola, aquí estamos de nuevo. Somos el equipo de trabajo de foodconciencia.com con nuestra serie 50 salidas a las 5 trampas de la alimentación contemporánea.
Hi, this is Food Conciencia here with CAC, California Alliance for Community Composting, where we have Kourtney Brown, the CEO, with us today. Would you like to introduce yourself, Kourtney, and maybe the CAC as well?
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, my name is Kourtney Brown. I have been one of the co-founders of the California Alliance for Community Composting, and I'm really excited to talk to you today about what's going on with composting in California.
Fantastic. So tell us, the first question I have here is, what is community compost and what is home compost?
Great questions. So home composting is something that an individual can do in their kitchen spaces, in their backyards, in alleyways, but it's primarily an individual trying to recover the resource of their organic materials and use it on site for their own purposes. Whereas community composting is a little bit bigger of an endeavor. This is where individuals, groups, or formal organizations are working to recover resources for local benefits. So for the health of local soils, to meet capacity and diversion mandates or a county or a state. And it's a really decentralized network of community members that are doing this at a little bit larger scale, but still much smaller than an industrial scale. And the two defining factors of what makes community composting versus commercial composting is that it's first for the benefit of local people, and that it second does not compound any of the environmental justice or social justice stressors of other larger scale operations.
Could you dive into that a little bit more?
Sure. Well, in California specifically, we're going to need to build 86 new large-scale facilities for about $17.4 billion in order to meet the capacity that the state is asking for. And a facility that size often can't be permitted in urban areas, especially places where urban agriculture is taking place. And also when sites are permitted for very large facilities like that, oftentimes they are close to proximity to priority communities, priority populations, underserved communities, low-income communities. And this can, with truck congestion, exacerbate environmental issues like poor air quality, but also environmental justice and social justice issues like exporting your waste, quote unquote, to another community instead of having it be part of your responsibility or a resource you can recover for your own community's benefit.
I see. Thank you. So tell me about the relationship between California State and CAC.
So the California Alliance for Community Composting started out in about 2015 as an unincorporated association of a lot of groups that were coming to seek legal advice saying, I want to start a community composting project. What is it that I need to learn about the law? Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out there was a lot of things that applied to community composting, from local ordinances to waste management and handling laws, to facility permitting. And as we were learning all of this individually, the state was also designing a landfill diversion mandate for organics. So we first started out as a policy advocacy organization, and we showed up to the state legislature, to the California Department of Resources, Recycling and Recovery, to explain to them the role that community composting could play in helping to meet these targets and as a viable solution for a lot of rural counties or very dense urban areas, and the efficiency and cost effectiveness of composting at a decentralized and local scale. So they heard us, and when they created SB 1383, they were able to make some reduce the burdens and the barriers for entry to community scale projects, provide exceptions or exemptions to permitting processes for these small scale facilities. And then we got to more formally become an organization, which I can go into a little bit later. But we've been working with the state primarily at public stakeholder comments, what's important to people and what's important to local communities when they want to participate in diverting their organic materials.
That's fantastic. So SB 1383, you said, that's the home compost program?
No, SB 1383 is the statewide organic landfill diversion mandate.
Okay.
So basically, the targets are that the results are that by 2025 target requiring the state to source, reduce, reuse, or recover approximately 20 million out of 26 million tons of organic waste by 2025. Wow. So we can go into a little bit of that baseline data and what that means, but facilities. But it also is an opportunity, which we've been focusing on, for the creation of over 100 new small businesses.
I'm sorry, Kourtney, you actually cut off for a second there. Could you repeat that as well?
Of course. It is also an opportunity, what we see as the creation of more than 100 new small businesses in the recycling and resource recovery sector in California. So it's a very exciting time to reduce the amount of organics that go to the landfill, which we know causes methane, which is greenhouse gas that is 80 times more potent than carbon dioxide. And we also know that we've got a soil health problem, and that the soil, if it is healthier, can sequester and store more carbon. So the two seem very interlinked, and the state is now requiring all cities and counties to participate in a source separation program that is able to get these organics out of the black bins or the trash bins and get them to facilities where they can be recovered.
So is there a target per person in a city level, and then the city level has to meet those, or how is this mandate?
Well, each city and county will have its own reduction targets that the city councils can actually set themselves, but the state of California is looking for 75% reduction over the whole state.
I see.
And I just wanted to clarify just one thing. SB 1383 is a law, and when you're asking about community composting, there are sections in there that actually help community composting be the solution to the law, but the law is not about community composting.
I see. So the law is
landfill diversion.
So the law is more about the result rather than the means.
Correct. And there are supporting portions of the law for the means, but it's really about diverting organics from landfill in California.
Fantastic. When was this program, this mandate passed?
Was passed in 2020, but it went into effect on January 1st, 2022, statewide.
So why do you support it? What advantages do you find in the program?
Well, I think just at the basic level, composting is one of the easiest things you can do as an individual to build climate resilience that affects everybody globally, and especially if you can do it in a decentralized way, it can affect your local community directly.
So how does it impact citizens themselves? Is the program mandatory for citizens, or how does that work?
It is mandatory for cities to a municipal compost program. So it's really up to cities and counties how they want to implement SB 1383. What we're seeing is that large-scale solutions are really attractive for some obvious reasons. It's easy to have one service provider, one type of bin, and all residents of commercial businesses are using the same. But when things are done in such large scale, it's really hard for the city to manage what goes into that green bin. So we can go into how successful these municipal programs are a little bit later, but the opportunity for allowing community composters to be part of that solution for cities and councils, cities and counties is what we're in discussions with at the local level right now. So when they're looking to implement SB 1383 to not count out bicycle haulers and drop-off site locations and using public parks and open green spaces as a place where we can not only compost but do community education about composting. So we see that the two options of how cities and counties are going to implement SB 1383 is being an opportunity for partnership. There are a lot of good reasons to have a large-scale solution, but there are also a lot of good reasons to have community education and community support, making these larger-scale options more successful, and also still retaining some of those community benefits that come out of producing. So,
tell us a little bit about the community education and support. Have the citizens in California committed to the program?
Well, right now, part of the municipal program that needs to be rolled out is just to explain to the resident or the commercial business, like what goes into a green bin. So that's really been the focus of the discussion for community education, I think, since the law was even kind of...
What does go into the green bin?
Yeah, well, we like to say OM, or SOM, which is OM, organic matter. So if it was ever alive once, it will be alive again. Then for SOM, which is for soil organic matter. So all of that stuff creates really healthy micronutrients and other benefits that amend the soil to help make it healthier.
Does it matter if it's animal product or plant product or anything like that?
Yeah, so each, again, municipal program will get to decide really do's and don'ts. But in general, what can be composted is anything that was once alive. So yes, bones are totally fine. And we really do at the community level like to incorporate a lot of manures, especially from agricultural programs. So chicken poop and rabbit poop, we also really see that a lot of times aren't maybe acceptable in a municipal system. So I'd say probably the only thing organic across the board that we really do try to keep out is human pet waste.
I see. What about the farmers on the flip side? Are they using the compost coming from the program?
Of course, especially community hub, which is a location where residents can come and drop off their materials if they don't want to participate in the municipal system, or they were waived out of it, or there is no municipal system. And that material is usually composted at the place where it was dropped off. It's usually used on site. If they are very efficient and high capacity site, they'll probably have more compost than they can use. And in that case, it's usually given back to the residents and the public, and it's offered for free. So we're really trying to increase access to compost too, and low cost but high quality.
Through this program, could California become self-sufficient, have most of its compost be like its own main source for agriculture in California?
There is a separate program. So when you say program, I guess I just want to go back and to clarify, SB 1383 is a law. There are a lot of programs that have come out of implementing this law, like Community Composting for Green Spaces grant program, which we're helping Cal Recycle to implement. There is also the Healthy Soils Initiative, which is given to more farmers, kind of like what you're talking about, which is people who would be the compost end users who want to get financial benefits for sequestering carbon. And there's also some air reduction acts, clean water quality. So there's programs across the board that SB 1380 that aim to help the success of it, SB 1383. But SB 1383 is not a program.
I see. It's a mandate. That makes sense now. Okay.
So, yeah. So, like, before SB 1383 even went into effect, knowing this was coming down the pipeline, the state legislator, with the Climate Change Investments Funds, dedicated $1.5 million to community composting projects to help us be ready to implement the law in 2022. So we've been working on that for the last 2 years. They since increased with another allocations to the award, so we're now administering $1.54 million. And then they just released a second round of that program to run through 2025, which they dedicated $4.25 million to the program, which we're going to submit an application for and hopefully be able to kind of grow even more. But
so if it's a mandate, what happens if it's not fulfilled? And how do they keep track of this?
Those are really great questions. So there will be requirements for submitting our diversion tracking. So this is the responsibility of cities and counties to understand what their baseline data is and to try to reduce that to meet their own personal targets, which help the state meet the statewide targets. If they are not signed up or implementing SB 1383, there will be fines, but CalRecycle is the California Department of Resources Recycling and Recovery, which we call CalRecycle.
Okay.
Is not really really focused on the implementations of fines at this level. They really are more focused on providing the capacity and the funds that cities would need to start implementing. So yes, maybe fines might come down the pipeline in about 5 years, but right now it's really just providing incentives to get going rather than disincentives for those that might be struggling.
That makes sense.
You can also waive out of the mandate if you are a rural county with really small populations, or if you are in there's a few waivers, I forget all of them, but there have been a significant amount of counties in California that have submitted waivers and had those accepted by CalRecycle to not participate in the mandate. And so for our organization, that's an opportunity to say, yeah, we understand a county-wide program for a very low population of residents, especially if you're starting in a low-income county, can be very daunting. But here's a really low-cost and effective way of still meeting the mandate, even though you might have submitted a waiver. So we see this as an opportunity to go in and help them with something that seems a little bit more than they have the capacity to implement themselves. So teaching them how to utilize their community, and they can take credit for those diversions that happen at community scale sites.
Okay, fantastic. Another question I have is, how did you guys come up with the 75%?
This was set by the state. This is not us. This is the state of California. I'm gonna have to dive into my legal history notes here. I believe that it was a combination of factors between how many existing compost facilities there are, how many existing anaerobic digestive facilities there are, how much would they need to build with those categories, how much they think it would cost, how long would it take to build those. So the timing and the targets, there's a lot that went into deciding what statutory requirements were. But that's beyond kind of my understanding and what I do.
What difficulties has the mandate had? Maybe from citizens or from farmers?
Well, before, with the younger drafts of SB 1383, reaching out and taking a capacity statement from community-based organizations as cities and counties were designing their plans and figuring out how they were going to implement it was not a requirement. But by the time the final draft of the law had come out, there were sections in there on how to conduct community outreach during the planning process. So we did get some sections put in there about how to engage community-based organizations and stocks of the public open green spaces that could be available to start decentralized sites.
Nice.
We also got an exemption in the law for what we call excluded activities. So this is not specifically community composting. This could be somebody's home as well, which you were asking about earlier. This is any site that is below 750 square feet or 100 cubic yards is an excluded activity from needing a facility permit. So this really helped reduce the barriers and cost to entry for needing to get a very expensive facility permit, having to conduct environmental reviews in order to get those permits, and also to kind of manage the types of materials that are accepted on site at these excluded activities. So for example, we don't take any hazardous, but that would have been obvious.
Right. Do you have any advice for any people outside of California, maybe trying to do the same thing in other states, or movements that are looking to your organization for, as a model or anything like that?
Yes, absolutely. So if you're really concerned or interested in any of the legal implications about running a community composting project, we have a website which you can go to teach kind of everyday people how to be policymakers. So this will give you the information that you need to show up to your city council and to ask for the support that you would need to launch your project. So this is called compostlaw.org, O-R-G. And then the California Alliance for Community Composting has also created a soil stewardship curriculum, and that's available free to the public on YouTube, and I can give you the link as well. But these are videos of our soil summer camp, our training camp that we run for our site operators. And it goes everything between social entrepreneurship, so how to get a project launched and funded, collections and community drop-offs, how to run a program which accepts materials from local residents, how to compost, how to vermicompost, how to compost with lots of different types of methods, how to test your compost so that you make sure that you're offering a quality and safe product, and other things like providing community engagement and volunteer engagement, or how to get people involved in the project. So we're really trying to create all of these resources and have them be available for free to the public from anywhere in the world. So these can be easily adapted to your community. And we're also supported by and have a partnership with the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, which runs a Cultivating Community Composters International Coalition. So they have a lot of these same materials, best management practices guides, posters you can put up at your site which explain how composting is happening or why at the community level is important, available in multiple languages. So that is ILSR Composting Project.
Nice.
Institute for Local Self-Reliance. You could go there for resources as well, and also join the CCC. We have, I think, over 10 countries and the United States as members right now, member organizations. I think we even have one from Colombia.
Wow, very nice. Okay, so we're wrapping up the interview. I think you touched base on a couple of things I was going to ask last. Any social networking, Facebook, Instagram, anything along those lines that you guys use for posting updates, keeping people interested?
We do. For those located in California that do want to hear about funding opportunities to launch community projects, that CAC will support you in technical assistance, infrastructure development, and training. You can go to our website and the projects page and sign up for our Community Composting for Green Spaces listserv. That's specifically about funding opportunities in California. But if you just want to stay in contact, you can also submit your information on our contact page on our website, and we'd be happy to keep you in the loop about all the cool materials that we have available to the wider public.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kourtney. Yeah, thank you very much, Kourtney and CAC. We really appreciate you having you here. I'm going to end the interview.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really excited to hear about this movement taking off and your community as well. And so please reach out to us if you're seeking international connection, partnership, and shared learning.
Fantastic.